4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the National Emergency Operations Center COVID-19 daily briefing for the 9th of April 2020. I stand here before you today, and that is what you see. But like everyone else, I feel sometimes down. There are days that I cry and wonder, what does all this uncertainty mean? I pray in the mornings, I read, and I try to make myself happy, like most of you do. It is not an easy time. It is a very challenging time. We are not accustomed to having our freedom of movement, which is a fundamental right that we have, curtailed like this. We are working together. We are all in this together, and we will come through together. Today, there are a number of speakers who will address you on various matters, from foreign affairs, community development, the Red Cross, the law, and other matters. Without further ado, I would invite Ms. Kay Bass, who is the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Aviation, to address us. Ms. Bass.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and good afternoon to all. I am Kay Bass, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Aviation, and also Chair of the Foreign Assistance Committee, which is an arm of the National Emergency Operating Center. Our missions overseas are extensions of the National Emergency Operating Center, and even though our heads of missions and staff are trying to cope with this new phenomenon, they are at the same time trying to work with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis to ensure that they fulfill the mandate that has been given to them. I wish to thank all of our heads of missions and staff who are working diligently, even though they are home, working from home due to social distancing. And I wish to commend them for the efforts that they have made thus far. Our missions overseas have three primary responsibilities in situations like these. This one is a pandemic, and we have never experienced one, but they are helping in three areas. The first, they are sharing best practices. In their various jurisdictions, they too are experiencing this challenge, and they are sharing with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis what other governments are doing, what is happening in their particular or respective jurisdictions, so that the government of St. Kitts and Nevis can have a slew of practices from which they can select the best. So we wish to commend them for that. Secondly, through their networks, they can facilitate any requests that the government might have. And already you would have heard of the successful efforts of Her Excellency Jasmine Huggins in Taiwan, who, through her contacts there, was able to get 3 ventilators for the hospitals here in St. Kitts as well as in Nevis. So we want to thank Ambassador Huggins for using her contacts and networks in Taiwan to do that. We also commend Her Excellency Sherry Truss, who is working diligently to obtain a a number of materials for us, hand sanitizers, masks, etc., which we know will be very useful for our health professionals and our frontline officers. Her Excellency Verna Morris in Cuba was very instrumental also in having the doctors, the medical practitioners who are currently here in the Federation here. So she was very instrumental in liaising with the Cuban authorities to ensure that we receive the best expertise. And we take this opportunity to thank our friends of Cuba for such tangible support. Thirdly, our missions overseas are continuing to liaise with our students overseas, our nationals in the diaspora, to ensure that they maintain, that they receive the information readily and that our students are assured of the support where they are. We know that our students, right now, most of them are feeling a little displaced. They are away from home and family and familiar environs. And any particular concerns that they may have could be referred to our various missions. If you do not know where our missions are, I would like to refer you to www.foreign.gov.kn. You click on the tab which says Missions, and there you will find the heads of missions, the name, the contact information, including email and telephone. Although they're working from home, the phones are still manned, and therefore they will be able to receive your concerns and address them accordingly. We know that each student's needs will differ or vary. Our students in Taiwan, as you know, are on full scholarship, and we don't anticipate that they will have any major difficulties, but sometimes they may need some moral support, and we thank our ambassador there who has already reached out to the students, and she organized a YouTube conference with health professionals from Taiwan, and the students were able to engage with those health practitioners to ask questions to ensure that they protect themselves against COVID-19. So if you have difficulty in finding the address online, you can call one of the numbers here at the National Emergency Operating Center. You can call 466-7453, 466-3874, 466-9626, and you can ask for the address of the embassies. Or you can also get in contact with myself. My telephone number is 665-3115. If you have any concerns about how you can reach any of our embassies overseas or how you can obtain assistance if you need it. I also wish to thank the government of Taiwan, the Republic of China, Taiwan, for the generous donations that they have given to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. As you know, we have had diplomatic relations with Taiwan as long as we have been an independent country, and we continue to see their fraternity and friendship in different and various circumstances, and they continue to share their expertise with us, and for that we are eternally grateful. I want to console the parents of the students in Cuba to inform them that our ambassador there, Ambassador Verna Morris, has informed that she was able to secure some materials for students, masks, gloves, etc. Some of them are still on their way to Cuba, but she was able to join with some of her colleagues from the various Caribbean islands to order some materials for the students, and she also delivered food supplies to the students at the medical school there in Havana. So we would wish to thank her for reaching out to the students, and to all our heads of missions and staff who continue to work diligently. I wish to say thank you also on behalf of the Honorable Mark Brantley, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Aviation, to our staff here in St. Kitts as well. Although they are at home, they are continuing to field questions, check their emails to ensure that we don't miss anything. So I want, as I end, to encourage all our students overseas to continue to listen to reputable announcements and sites about how they can safeguard themselves against COVID-19 and to follow the guidelines and requests of the health authorities there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bass. I now invite Mrs. Janelle Lewis, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Community Development, Gender Affairs, and Social Services, to share some words with us.
Good afternoon. As indicated, I am Mrs. Janelle Lewis Defarai, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Social Services. As many of you would be aware, the Ministry of Social Services is responsible for the well-being of our vulnerable populations. Now, as we are facing a pandemic, the first we have ever been confronted with, we realize that there are persons who have been vulnerable before the pandemic and persons who the pandemic would have made vulnerable now. So what our ministry has done as a part of the NEOC, we have been doing wellness checks with those persons who are our clients, our food voucher assistance clients, our home care assistance clients, persons with disabilities, etc. We have been calling around trying to find out how they are doing, what their needs are, and how we can assist. As we also sit on the NEOC, we are here every day. As my colleague P.S. Bass mentioned, there are several numbers that persons can call if they need assistance. 466-7453, 466-9626, 466-3874. So we have been fielding and responding to some of these calls. We have been able to assist persons who are caregivers for whether they are relatives, neighbors, friends who have challenges, persons who are shut in, who can't go out and shop for themselves, who need assistance taking their insulin, etc. These are persons who need permission clearance from the commissioner in order to leave their homes during the lockdown or the curfew to visit their loved ones. And we've been able to process all of these requests, forward them to the commissioner, and get the relevant clearance so that these persons who are restricted to their homes, who can't help themselves, have the support and assistance that they need during this challenging time. We also address calls of persons who, because of whatever situation they're in, they may have lost their jobs, they may have had reduced hours, etc. And while there is a stimulus package in place that is still being organized, with that payments are supposed to be made from next week, but in the interim, people do need to eat. So we have distributed some food packages, and we're also working with persons who are donating to NEOC. And we are quite heartened by the number of donations that we have been receiving. You would have heard yesterday that OGs would have given some hot meals, which would have been distributed to persons around the entire island. We've also been working with Miss Nurse Cheryl Isaac, a mental health nurse practitioner, who has provided for us a list of her clients. These include persons with mental disabilities, some of them who are homeless, some who have relatives but they roam the street. We've reached out to the family members to find out again what kind of support do you need, how can we assist you in encouraging these persons to remain at home so they don't break the law. We have gone out to look for the homeless people so they know that we are here and we are here to assist them. But we also encourage, we're not gonna know everybody who is vulnerable and who is in need. As I mentioned earlier, because of the situation, there are persons who have been well off before, but because of the pandemic, they are now classified as vulnerable. So we may not have interacted with those persons before. So I am inviting the general public, please to call in, let us know at NEOC that there are neighbors, there are friends, relatives who need particular assistance. We will try our best to assist you. Now, our ministry also covers probation and child protection services, gender affairs, and counseling. And although we're not physically at the Victoria Road office or the satellite office in the community centers, we are still on call. Research has shown that during these times, cases of domestic violence, child abuse tend to increase. The officers are on call and they're supposed to respond if something happens. So I will share those numbers with you. For probation and child protection services, the public can call 662-6833. That's 662-6833. For gender affairs, 662-5492. For social services, 662-7710. And for counseling, 662-8086. So we are here to help. We're in it together. So let's try and work together. Let's try to collaborate and get through this trying time. And do remember, it's Easter, so happy Easter. Although we're not going in the church, we can still celebrate the fact that Jesus Christ is risen. Thank you.
Thank you, Permanent Secretary Lewis. We recognize with us, as usual, the Honorable Vincent Byron, who is our Attorney General. He continues to make himself available at these press briefings to clarify, to answer any questions that are posed. I now invite Mr. Hester Rollins, who is the Director General of the St. Kitts and Nevis Red Cross Society, to share with us. Mr. Rollins.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to all. My name is Hester Rollins, Director General of the St. Kitts Nevis Red Cross Society. In the fight against COVID-19, the St. Kitts and Nevis Red Cross Society, a national society of the International Federation of Red Cross, and Red Cross Crescent societies, has been engaged in discussion that seek to offer timely and appropriate relief to the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. The operations of the Red Cross are guided by 7 fundamental principles, with one such principle being humanity. This principle encourages its volunteers to prevent and alleviate human sufferings and to protect life and health. In this regard, I would like to announce that our initial response to COVID-19 is to offer psychosocial support to all citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. Psychosocial support as an integral part of our emergency response. It helps individuals and communities to heal the psychological wounds and rebuild social structures before, during, and after an emergency of a critical event. It also helps in changing people into active and resilient survivors. Early and adequate psychosocial support can, 1, prevent distress and suffering developing into something more severe. 2, help people to cope better and become reconciled to everyday life. 3, help beneficiaries to resume their normal lives. And 4, meet community identified needs. The service delivery of this type of support will be done via telephone hotline. the National Society has secured 10 cellular phone numbers, 6 of which, in the first instance, have been assigned to trained psychosocial support specialists located on St. Kitts as well as on Nevis. The PSS hotline will be commissioned tomorrow, Friday, April 10th. The PSS personnel will become available as early as 7 a.m. and as late as 10 p.m. daily via WhatsApp or direct call. Please note that psychosocial support is not counseling. Although most of the trainers are versed in the field of counseling, their duty will be provide a minimum support. For example, should a caller seek information regarding the ways in which to healthily cope while caring for an ill member of the family, the team will be equipped to address this concern. Should a caller, however, attempt to report a situation of abuse, the case will be referred to appropriate department or agency. The PSS personnel will be mandated to comply with the following codes of operation. 1, confidentiality. 2, presenting of the facts. 3, follow-up. 4, maintenance of the call log. 5, referral of cases where necessary. And 6, avoidance of a false hope. We therefore encourage our citizens to take advantage of this service in the effort of preserving your psychological wellness. Our competent volunteers stand willing and ready to serve you in this capacity. The Red Cross Society is currently engaged in further discussions that are aimed at providing relief in a tangible way. We will update at the appropriate time. COVID-19 does not discriminate. As such, let us continue to comply with the precautions of the Chief Medical Officer and her team. Let us continue to support each other. We are in it together. In closing, the St. Kitts Nevis Red Cross Society would like to profoundly thank Flo providing the SIM cards and available data so that we can provide this intervention. And also we'd like to thank Dr. Amri Mori, consultant psychiatrist for PAHO, who provided all our psychosocial support team members some guidance in PSS specifically to COVID-19. The members will be available at the following times. PSS personnel in St. Kitts, 11 to 3 p.m. The number is 661-2852. PS personnel in St. Kitts, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Number 661-2603. PS personnel in St. Kitts again, from 2 to 8 p.m. 664-2614. PSS personnel in Nevis, from 2 to 6, 664-4119. PSS personnel in Nevis again, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., 663-7879. PS personnel in Nevis again, from 7 to 10 p.m. My number is 660-0901. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins, for sharing with us the contribution of the St. Kitts and Nevis Red Cross Society. I now invite Superintendent Cromwell Henry, the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, Divisional Commander for District A, to address us on matters pertaining to law enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Pleasant good afternoon to everyone, those in the audience here and those listening via this broadcast. We are nearing the end of day 2 of the partial curfew and the end of the first state of emergency that was proclamated sometime at the end of March. Effective 7 p.m. this evening, the full curfew will resume and a new proclamation has been promulgated and take effect as of 7:01 p.m. this evening. That would run until 18th of April. As I mentioned, the full curfew begins at 7 p.m. this evening and would remain in effect until 6 a.m. on April 16th. persons have a few minutes to complete their final shopping. The essential workers should be doing their last minute shopping at this point, having been granted that priority preferential time from 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. this evening. The security forces continue their efforts in maintaining law and order in the Federation. I want to personally thank the officers for their endurance, for their sacrifice. I myself was out and the sun is very hot, to say the least. And these officers have to stand there for most of the day, enduring that heat, just so that we all can be safe. I want to say a special thank you to them, and we ask you to continue to support their efforts. In terms of arrests, we have made 43 arrests to date for persons who would have violated the curfew at night. And of these 43, 26 persons have been charged. The others would be reported via summons. We are in the process of trying to move the court to open sometime to very near future to deal with these particular matters, so that persons could see that we are serious about law and order in the Federation. I have an announcement with respect to vehicles. We've been getting questions about vehicles whose licenses were due in March. Initially, I had said that they were given an extension until April 15th to have their vehicles licensed, but we see now the state of emergency would extend until April 18th, which would make it almost impossible for that to happen. And especially also since the vehicle inspection sites are closed. The Inland Revenue Department has extended the grace period until April 30th for persons' vehicles ending with 3 to have their vehicles licensed. Notwithstanding that the Inland Revenue Department will be closed, your vehicles can be licensed online. There is an online portal that would facilitate the licensing of your vehicles. The requirement for the vehicle inspection will be waived. As I mentioned, the vehicle inspection sites are closed, so that the vehicle inspection requirement will be waived. However, the site requires that you upload a vehicle inspection certificate. So in the absence of that certificate, you would have to upload your insurance certificate in that space where you would have uploaded the inspection certificate. So you would upload the insurance certificate twice, in the section for the insurance certificate and in the section for the inspection certificate, so that the system would complete the process. If you do not upload a document in the inspection certificate section, the process would not be completed. So you would upload your insurance certificate twice. You would upload it as the inspection certificate, and you would upload it in the section for the insurance certificate. You will be able to pick up your license and your receipt at a police station. We would announce when those would be available, but those would be delivered to the police stations, and persons would pick them up to the police station nearest to where they live. So the address for the website is www.sknird.com, and you would follow the link for the vehicle license. For persons who have never used that portal before, it requires that you register, you open an account and register, and before you could proceed with anything else. And the staff of Inland Revenue would be available via phone to assist you in that process if you have any difficulty. Your registration would have to be validated, so someone would be there to call you just to validate, to ensure that the person who is registering the account is who they say they are. So the number to call, just in case you're having any difficulty while you are registering your account, is 662-8207, 662-8943, or 662-8675. That is 662-8207, 662-8943 or 662-8675. These are the numbers that you can call if you're having any difficulty while you're registering your accounts or while you are doing your vehicle license, and someone from Inland Revenue will be happy to assist you. The website also facilitates the renewal of your driver's license. So those persons whose driver's license has expired and you haven't been able to renew it, you can go to the same website, register, and renew your driver's license. The photo, we would use the photo from your the one that is on file, so you do not have to upload a photo. You just have to complete the form, pay the necessary fees, and your license would be again available at a police station for you to pick up, and we would announce when those are ready. So the Inland Revenue is providing an avenue for you to have your vehicles and your driver's licenses up to date. Of course, your insurance would have to be valid. So if your insurance is expired and the insurance company hasn't provided a way for you to renew your insurance, then you will be stuck. We cannot permit you to drive your vehicle if it's not insured. So if your insurance is expired and there's no way for you to renew your insurance during this period, then you just have to ground your vehicle. We will not advise you to use your vehicle if it is not insured. You have until the 30th of April for those whose vehicles end with 3 to have them licensed. After that, then the police would begin prosecution or seizure of these vehicles. Of course, those vehicles end with 4, you could go right ahead and renew your license as well, your vehicle license, if your vehicle ends with 4. We encourage all to use this service because that might just be the way to go even after COVID-19. During the 24-hour curfew period, that is from 7 p.m. tonight until 6 a.m. on the 16th, all movements outside of your premises would be restricted. Only movements for emergencies, if you have to rush to the hospital, then that will be permitted. If you, as we mentioned previously, if you are a caregiver and you have to provide home care for an elderly person or someone who is shut in, we would allow that. We ask that you call the police station in your area before you leave home so that you inform the police you will be leaving your house and give the time and the purpose for which and the place where you're going. We will also allow for farmers, crop farmers and crop farmers and livestock farmers. You will also be permitted to go to your farms to tend to your animals or your plants between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. daily. For fishers, you would only be permitted out on partial curfew days. So fishers would not be allowed to go out and sea during the 24-hour curfew periods, but on partial curfew days, you'll be permitted to leave at 6:30 to tend to your fish pots or your vessels on the sea. As usual, the police and defense force will be patrolling the streets, patrolling the communities, and will be available to assist you. If you have any difficulties, you could call the station or you could stop a police vehicle in your area, and we'll be more than happy to assist you where we can. There is a hotline here at the NEOC, 311. They'll provide whatever assistance you want. There is the social development department. They have representation here. If there's a person who is shut in, who doesn't have anyone to take care of him, that department takes care of those persons. So if you know someone who is shut in and doesn't have food, and you're not in a position to assist them, you can call 311 and we would be more than happy to provide assistance to those persons. So we want everybody to be comfortable during this period of shut-in, and so if you're not sure about anything, either call 911, 311, or any police station and ask. Do not take things upon yourself and do it not knowing whether or not it is correct, and then find out that you're wrong while you're out there. The police have instructions, they have orders, we are following the regulations, and they would enforce the law as it's written. So again, we wish everyone a safe 24-hour period until the 16th of April, and may God continue to bless us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Henry. We recognize among us the Honorable Wendy Phipps, Minister of State with responsibility for health, community development, gender affairs, and social services. I now invite Dr. Marissa Carty, PRO, in the Ministry of Health, to share with us the COVID-19 situation report. Dr. Carty.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Pleasant good afternoon to everyone. As of Thursday, 9th April at 3 p.m., the World Health Organization reports 1,439,516 confirmed cases of COVID-19 globally, with 85,711 deaths. In the Federation to date, 197 persons have been tested, with 11 confirmed positive, 115 confirmed negative, and 71 results pending, with 0 deaths. There are currently 29 persons quarantined in a government facility, while 159 persons are quarantined at home. 11 persons remain in isolation. To date, 468 persons have been released from quarantine. We are reminded that our community health workers are still in the process of tracing and monitoring persons who have had contact with confirmed cases. This is done in an effort to reduce the possibility of community transmission. The Ministry of Health would like to thank the citizens and residents of our Federation for their continued support of the measures that are put in place to protect us all. Let us continue to work together to reduce the impact of this disease by exercising social distance and appropriate respiratory hygiene measures. It is important that we remind you that persons with a confirmed diagnosis of COVID-19 are to remain in strict isolation. Anyone who have had significant and direct contact with a confirmed case are automatically placed in quarantine for a minimum of 14 days. Persons in quarantine are not allowed to interact with anyone during those 14 days. Daily updates, national statistics and other COVID-19 related information will be shared with the public via the National Information System and also via the official website www.covid19.gov.kn. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carty, for our situation report. I now invite Mr. Abdias Samuel, Chair of the National COVID-19 Task Force, to address us.
Greetings to you, the listener, via radio viewers via television and the internet. I want to thank everyone for tuning in and day out to get information from this briefing. Today, Thursday, 9th April, I want to acknowledge the D&D Constructions for the kindly donation of $1,500 to the NEOC, and Mickey Hope of Sugar Apartments Frigate Bay for donating clothing and toiletries for the most vulnerable. As it regards to the national calling statistics and the calls we have received, 311 would have received 87 calls for nationally, 81 calls on St. Kitts and 6 on Nevis. 911 would have generated 138 calls, mainly general people seeking general information. The National Emergency Operations Center, along with the EOC on Nevis, the Emergency Operations Center, would have generated 17 calls in total, 7 on St. Kitts, 10 on Nevis. Most of them were related to requests for permission during the lockdown, general information, and health-related matters. Again, I want to advise the general public, or inform the general public rather, that the bread delivery process for Zone 1 is still ongoing. The team started very early this morning. However, due to one or two circumstances which was beyond the control of anyone, the team would have been slowed up a little bit in the delivery process. So have some patience. I was informed that they have finished certain areas around the city. They already finished some areas between the areas of Connery to Keon, and they are on their way to Harris's village between Sadlers and Lavington area as well. So they will be with you shortly to deliver the bread. The process has been going good. I want to really acknowledge and thank Ms. Clarissa Langley-Stevens, Deputy National Disaster Coordinator, and the district managers, Mr. Ron Boddy, Mr. Ralda Claxton, and Mr. Maurice Benjamin for the excellent job they are doing in terms of the distribution process. And I want to acknowledge some of the citizens who actually called in yesterday and offered their assistance in doing this task. Thank you for doing so. I want to remind the general public as well that the lockdown commences this evening at 7, and I'm asking everyone to remember that no gathering of any size is permitted. It's important that we comply with the regulations before us. Persons with exemption letters, you are reminded to please use these passes as per the request that you made, and do not abuse these passes. And when you are traversing on the road, please note that it is not you alone who are on the road. We reference the 311 hotline. I just want to make a bit of an intervention here in terms of what's the purpose of the 311 hotline. 1, to address callers with issues pertaining to individuals in quarantine or isolation. Again, to address callers with issues pertaining to quarantine or isolation. 2, to address questions related to the health system operations, for example, the opening of health centers, hospitals, or any other related matter. And 3, to link callers who may have psychosocial needs or concerns to seek the appropriate services that you need. That is very important to know. That is the purpose of the hotline. We want persons to understand that they could also call 911 or the numbers that we provided. Those are critical and important. I was asked to also remind the general public that tomorrow you are in a 24-hour curfew, meaning that we are in lockdown. Unfortunately, there will be no kite flying at anywhere, whether it be Bellevue, or any other place. So please let us comply with these rules, as tomorrow we commence a lockdown process, and this is done to treat the situation that we are facing. The only tool, one of the many tools that we have, and effective tools that we are seeing employed everywhere, is isolation. Isolation is the tool that we have at the moment in order to curb the transmission of the coronavirus. So let us comply, do your part as a civic-minded citizen to ensure that you support this national response. In conclusion, I want to wish you a happy Easter, and I wish the best for you, your family, and I look forward for citizens to become innovative, creative with your skill sets during this 7-day period of curfew, 24-hour curfew. Thank you again for your cooperation. Thank you for your civility. I must commend you for what we have seen you have exercised in terms of social distancing and other practices related to the fight against COVID-19. Thank you, dear citizens, and I wish you all the best until tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Samuel. You know, there are about 5.5 billion people in the world. That's the world's population. And nearly 3 billion people are under lockdown. This is serious. Extremely serious. So we in St. Kitts and Nevis, we are not in a unique position. We will now have some questions from the media, and I already have some already, and I'm going to start shooting them right now. I'll ask the first three. We're taking these measures in an effort to curb the spread of the virus. Who is measuring the spread? And how is that being measured? That is one question. The second question, what's our success criteria? We can easily say when the virus is eradicated from St. Kitts and Nevis, but what metrics will be used to determine this? That's the second question. The third question, are there any media personnel embedded with the security forces as they patrol our communities during partial and full curfews? Who is guarding the guard? Attorney General.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Williams. I'll deal with the last question first. The Governor General has proclaimed a state of emergency. We in St. Kitts and Nevis live under a constitutional democracy. The Constitution is the supreme law of our land. In the first part of the Constitution, there is laid out certain rights, inalienable rights, that are spelled out in our Constitution. Freedom of movement, freedom of conscience, and so forth. But there are certain provisos, and those provisos are set that those rights can be suspended in certain very special cases. They can be suspended on the grounds of national security, in terms of public order, and in this case, in terms of public health. And so, when the Governor General proclaims a state of emergency under Section 19 of the Constitution, those rights are suspended in relation to this public health crisis that we have. We have tried through our regulations that have been established under the Emergency Powers Act to get a balance because our lives must continue, albeit restricted. Our citizens must be able to eat and survive, to get their medicines and other necessary items for them to have a proper life. But these are abnormal times, very special times. We have heard from Mr. Williams that more than 60% of the world is locked down. We have heard from Dr. Carty as she lists on a regular basis the numbers of people who have contracted this virus and how many people have died as a result. Right next door to us in Antigua, there are individuals who have passed away. And we empathize with anyone in our region who has succumbed to this virus. We in St. Kitts and Nevis have been following the advice of medical professionals, the chief medical officer, and a very hard-working team. She's supported by the medical chief of staff of the GNF Hospital. And they have decided that we need to restrict movement of individuals so that we do not face a similar situation. The government, the cabinet, has accepted that advice. And we have asked the Governor General, and he has consented, that there's a reasonable causes to believe that there's need to have this restriction. The security forces will enforce the state of emergency. They'll do it properly. It is a state of emergency. It is not a day in the park. We are fighting for our lives. There are those in other regions who have lost their lives. And the government will do what it has to do to ensure that we protect the lives of all our citizens as it is. If I can get the other two questions, Mr. Williams.
Which one was that you answered?
I answered the last one about the police.
Right. We're taking these measures in an effort to curb the spread of the virus. Who is measuring the spread, and how is that being measured? That's all.
Thank you very much. The question was, how are we measuring what is happening? There are daily reports that are given by Dr. Carty as to what the status of the fight is here. You recall that St. Kitts and Nevis was the last independent country in our region to get to the point where we had our first confirmed case. This came after some weeks where we had implemented a very strict regime of screening everyone who came to our country. There are those who were turned back and turned away because there was a possibility that they may have been carriers of the virus. But we did screen. We did ask those who came from areas that were suspect to be quarantined. They're being monitored to ensure that they don't have any sort of symptoms that emerge. They're being tested. And our health professionals, the Health Emergency Operating Center, headed by our CMO, our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Laws, has been managing and monitoring to ensure that we maintain and contain any spread in our country. And today, we can feel confident that these professionals have done an excellent job. They are prepared, they've done an excellent job of preparing our facilities, the hospital, and everyone. They have trained those who need to be trained. And we have done a very good job of being in a position to protect all of our people. The other question.
The other one what's our success criteria?
The success,
We can easily say
the success criteria is that no one in St. Kitts and Nevis has succumbed to the virus. We can say that to date, we have not had anyone had to be admitted to the hospital in a serious condition. We hope to God that we do not have to come back and report that this has happened in our country. But we implore all our citizens to abide by our guidelines, to maintain social distance, physical distance, so that we don't have any depressing sad news for you in our daily briefings. At this point, we can feel a sense of, should I say, comfort that we have not had any serious incidents of the virus here, but we continue to work daily to ensure that that doesn't happen. I'll ask my colleague, Minister Wendy Phipps, to add her 2 cents to that matter. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. And just to augment a point raised by the Honorable Attorney General, the first question, I think, was attempting to point in the direction of how we are surveilling internally the rate of infection, etc. That is mainly the role of our epidemiologist in the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health has the privilege in St. Kitts and Nevis to have a very capable and professional epidemiologist. And what does that person do? An epidemiologist is a medical professional who happens to be a medical doctor who studies trends and pathologies in terms of diseases. So he will look at it from a scientific and statistical basis. He would look at it in terms of geographic mapping. For example, are we seeing a likelihood of greater infections in a particular area as opposed to another area? For example, he would look at other demographics, such as, is it happening more among females than males, among people of a certain age group, among people of a certain socioeconomic status, so that you can begin to see, well, okay, are there any linkages to perhaps wealth and income and propensity or likelihood to contract a particular disease? So that individual is the person who is leading that charge in terms of the tracking. When it comes to our determination as to whether or not we have achieved success, the data will drive that. If we have a reduction in the likelihood and the number of cases, if we have cases that remain, as the Attorney General said, to manifest only as mild symptoms, if we continue on the trend of not having anybody get sick enough to lose his or her life, then we would have considered that we would have achieved success. So these are the indicators that we look at. Was there another question? The metrics? Well, I think that more or less answers that question.
Thank you, Minister Phipps and Attorney General. This one is from Freedom FM. Regarding the announcement of the waiver on water and electricity payments for farmers, does that now extend to everyone in the nation in general, or will measures be put in place for persons who began growing food during this time? This is one question. The second question, A, B, and C, all has to do with bread. How will NEMA deliver the additional bread being made, since the bakery has to make more? To which areas will bread be delivered? Some essential workers have not received any bread as yet. Will there be provisions made specifically for them? And the third question has to do with the supermarkets. Some supermarkets have not granted essential workers the privilege of shopping during the stipulated 3 to 6 p.m., but I think it's 4 to 6 p.m. Am I correct? For Sandy Point? Yeah. Okay. Will this be rectified for the next shopping days? Can the shopping hours for essential workers run between 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.?
As it regards to the shopping hours, what we saw, coming from the last soft opening, as you said, we realized that that timing between 8 and 10 posed a bit of a challenge. So we decided to move it to a little later time. I think going forward, we're going to explore some further options in terms of how do we get that adequate time for the essential workers to do their shopping. So we are going to reassess, analyze, and then we are going to look at some potential measures to alleviate that process.
I note the question regarding the payment of bills in relation to water and other utilities. There has been a special dispensation for farmers at this time, because, as you have heard in previous briefings from the Director of Agriculture, there is a need to encourage food to be grown for us to get security. This did not happen immediately. We expect that it will take some weeks before this can flower and bring fruit. This is a difficult time. This is the time when all of us have to understand that we have to tighten our belts and prepare for the near and medium-term future. We do not know when, if and when, this virus will be peaked, and I think, as the question hinted, we can say that it has been driven out of St. Kitts and Nevis. We do not know. And so we have to be thoughtful and sensible, to be careful and plan properly. It's an emergency, and one that can well change the way we approach our lives. The government has provided a significant stimulus package, and it has come in a number of different forms. You would have heard that certain of your bills and expenses have been suspended and deferred, that you will not have any interest on some of these bills. You will not face any fines for late payment. But we have to be prepared to adjust our lifestyles and our expectations. The concession to farmers is a special one for farmers. It cannot be for everyone, because our resources are limited. We are a small nation. We have been very prudent in the manner in which we have done our finances over the last 5 years. We have been careful, and we expect, as we go forward, that our nation will come out of this stronger and safer and healthier. But all of us must do our part and share in the manner in which we do so. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Williams has asked that I address the question of the bread. The criteria that is being used for the bread, that there is no specific criteria. The team are out. However, they are giving preferences to the vulnerable, in particular the elderly ones who cannot move. They are getting some preferences. and anyone who sees the team, approaches the team will give you bread and bun.
Okay, this question is from Sugar City 90.3 FM. Internationally, there have been increased incidents of domestic violence because there is no escape when you are in 24-hour lockdown. Is this the case in the Federation? Have there been any incidents of domestic violence since our 24-hour curfew, or even an increase?
And we tested. Dr. Carty will have to confirm, but I suspect there can well be a further 14-day period when you are monitored before you are retested. There has to be a process where over 2 cycles you are tested and there are negative results. Is that correct, Dr. Carty? Yes. Please do come and explain it better for me.
Okay. For individuals who have been diagnosed as a confirmed case of COVID-19, the research tells us that it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for them to fully have the virus leave their bodies. So therefore, what is going to be required is the first 14-day quarantine. We will be monitoring them to see if they have any symptoms. If symptoms do not develop within that first 14 days, they are then placed on another 14-day monitoring cycle, which will take us up to about 28 days. At the end of that 28 days, then we consider testing them to see if the virus is still within their bodies. If after 24 hours we get negative tests for those 2 cycles, then that person will be considered recovered. However, because we are in a situation where our testing capabilities are not where we would want them to be at this time, we are considering having persons remain in that isolation period for the 28 days. And that is what is going to be required based on the research.
Thank you very much. It's very important to understand that we cannot have a situation where someone may, having spent 28 days, be a carrier still and released into the community and be a potential carrier and spread the disease further. Our strategy is to break that cycle, that there is no transmission. And so until there are tests that confirm that that individual has no sign of COVID-19, they have to be isolated from further contact with anybody else. At that time, a decision will have to be taken to that incubation period by the health authorities, by the chief medical officer and her team, what advice has to be given. So that we expect that over the next few weeks, because there are those who currently are under isolation because they are confirmed cases. And until that process that Dr. Carty has explained is completed, and we are confident that those individuals can be released into the community so that there will be no further spread. Until that time, we can then determine what procedures will happen. We have to think that our number 1 priority is to protect the safety, the health, the well-being of all our citizens. We have seen it be devastating in other societies around the world, other communities. We will want that our citizens here, our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis, are protected from any harm, any danger with this very difficult and serious health epidemic that's taken over the world.
Thank you, Attorney General. We'll take these last 3 questions that I have. As you know, school was abruptly closed back in March. During that period, students were either given or emailed care packages with various schoolwork with instructions not to complete until further notice. However, further instructions were sent that the students should begin the work. The work needs to be printed and the hard copies written on. Here lies the problem. Because of the state of emergency and the various curfews, only essential businesses are open. And we as parents are unable to either get them printed at a business or get the supplies to do it. I therefore ask that when next you go to the COVID-19 briefing, the person asked me to ask this question. Okay, so the place is not open where they can print their stuff. This one is the last 2. The Director General of the Red Cross Society only spoke about the St. Kitts Red Cross, contacts for the St. Kitts Red Cross. Are there any contacts for Red Cross Nevis? And this question, is there or should there be a penalty for those people who do not wear masks when in public places? Should they be allowed to enter the store if their nose and mouth are uncovered? Those are our last set of questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. I'll speak first to the question of education. The Ministry of Education has had a team over the last few days, maybe more than a week, working very hard to try and put in place a system by which our students cannot be disadvantaged coming into the final term of the school year. And they've worked with Flow. They have had engagements with Digicel and with the cable to provide devices, to provide internet broadband, and to provide school packages, tuition packages devised for the internet. They have had proposals from Flow as well as Digicel, and they've had to compare, and they are in the process of determining which one of these proposals will be launched. The schools had already determined which students or how many students would require devices, and nearly 2,000 devices will be provided for students in both St. Kitts and Nevis in the very near future. Some households do not have internet connections, but will be provided those connections, and on an interim basis, mobile or wireless internet can also be provided. It is important to note that our students continue to prepare themselves for CXC and CSEC. They prepare themselves for the future. And they are very good educational packages that have been prepared for CSEC, for CXC, that are available. We would like to thank FLO for their proposals and the work they continue to do to help our society. And I would say we have to say the same for Digicel, who are also making strides to assist us all. And our own cable company, who continue to provide reliable broadband to our society. Students will hear and parents will hear over the next few days as to how these things, devices that need to be, can be delivered, and how you can get access to student learning. But we understand that we're in a very difficult time. And as we lock down until next Thursday, we ask you to bear with us. And in the interim, we'll try and get these things put in place for you. Thank you. There was, what was the other two? Red Cross. And the other one was? As we get to hear about the contact for Nevis, I just want to say quickly that in our regulations, we ask that all our citizens wear masks. We find that it can assist us in trying to at least help to curb the transmission through mini droplets and other droplets. We encourage everyone to do so. But businesses have been closed, and everyone cannot always get access to them, to purchase them. So we also ask you to innovate, to use handkerchiefs and scarves to cover your nose and mouth. It is for your own good, as well as for those of your family and all of us. And although the regulations speak to shall, and there are penalties for breaches in these regulations, the police will use their discretion as to what they do in these circumstances. We have to have our people keep distance, 6 feet. That helps tremendously. We have to have you practice good hygiene, wash your hands. If you have a cough, you cover your face, your nose and your mouth. If others around you have a cough, ensure that they are encouraged to cover. As to whether you will be, and the penalty will be enforced, I would think that the police will use their discretion accordingly. But we are in this fight together, and we want everybody to do their utmost to cover up so that we can contain the spread of this virus at this time. Thank you.
I hereby announce once again the 3 members from Nevis, 4 numbers. 664-4119, 664-4119, 663-7879, 663-7879, 665-4583, 665-4583. Thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us to the end of our daily briefing. Much thanks to the media for their questions. I would like to thank permanent secretaries, Ms. Kay Bass and Mrs. Janelle Lewis for sharing with us today, Superintendent Cromwell Henry, Dr. Marissa Carty, sharing the situation report for COVID-19, Mr. Abdias Samuel, Honorable Wendy Phipps, and Honorable Vincent Byron for sharing today with us. Of course, we'll continue to update you on a daily basis. Even throughout the lockdown, you will be updated, so you can know what is happening in St. Kitts and Nevis with respect to the management of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you very much for tuning in and for listening. We will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another daily briefing. Until then, be safe. Take care.